Are you a Too Opinionated subscriber? Did you know there's 15 million podcasts out there? And of those 15 million, only 38,000 have enough viewers to be listed on IMDb, the entertainment database. Of those 38,000, Too Opinionated is ranked number 82. Father and son team. Most of those podcasts that are ahead of us are the big companies, Disney, Marvel, Joe Rogan, those type of podcasts. We have over 600 episodes, actors, musicians, producers, directors, writers, anything that you could possibly want in the entertainment world, we're covering it. And we'd like your support. If you're not subscribed, it's easy to do and it's free. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Just go there and click that subscribe button. Helps us a ton. If you're listening, wherever you listen to your podcast from, subscribe there. It'll help us so much. And please go to imdb.com and check out our page. Look up the Too Opinionated Podcast, imdb.com, and just look around the page. It really helps us a ton. We'd really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for your support. Until next time, bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. So excited today. I've got actor Shawn Ahmed with me. So welcome, Shawn.
Thank you.
Yeah, we've been talking off camera about all the, the pressing issues of the day, the time zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't hit weather, but I'm sure we would have if we kept going.
5 more minutes, we could have solved the world's energy crisis.
So welcome to the show, Shawn. I've been a fan of yours and didn't realize it, but you've popped up in just a ton of stuff that I watch, and I've just loved you every time you're on screen. The one I just rewatched and finished up was The Expanse.
Oh man, I love doing that show. That was one of a kind. That's like a reminder of why you go through the shit in this industry, is to get to do projects like that. High budget, high scale. Everyone cares on that set. Like every single crew member is in love with that project. So like there's just a lot of passion and energy involved into every day. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, you got to play a lieutenant on there.
That's
and
right,
that's
yeah.
such the books were excellent.
Yeah.
And that's not easy adapting, a really good book to the small screen, but they did a really good job with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the episodes that I was in on the Agatha King, those are like, from what I understand, is they're kind of like mentioned in the books. It's like, oh, this happened.
That's right.
But it was never written about. And it was one of the first stories that the writers, I think, that the writers were like, we're going to write our own kind of narrative of what happened on the, like, we know that the Agatha King blew up, spoiler alert, but we don't know, like, it was just kind of like a footnote in one of the other stories. But in this one, they were like, let's spend a few episodes now and actually go in there and see what happened.
See, I think that's pretty neat. It allows them a little bit of creativity, to play in that world a little bit. I think that's pretty neat.
Yeah, and I think it fills out the characters a lot more, and it gave Martin Roach's character a really phenomenal death scene, which I thought was just a really great.
Well, he's such a great actor.
Yeah, he is. He's a legend around these parts.
Yeah, he's not too bad. Not too bad. I didn't realize he was Canadian.
He is, yeah. Toronto guy.
I guess I should have, but yeah, didn't realize. That's pretty great. We'd had Cara Gee was on a couple years back, and she was amazing. She's so good on that show.
Oh man, yeah.
Yeah, that's a fun time. And then the other one, of course, I'm nerdy, Star Trek fan. So you're on Strange New World.
Yeah, that was a great show too. That was another pinch me moment of like, holy shit, I'm on the Enterprise.
Yeah, you're hitting all the big stuff.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate.
Got to find you a Star Wars vehicle.
Yeah, I know. That's the next step, right?
Cool. well, you've done the superhero stuff, right?
Yeah.
Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow.
It's Supergirl and Legends. Yeah. Supergirl I was in for, a hot second. But Legends I had a great role. I got to guest star in an episode and we
Yeah.
really got to craft an episode together and I got to come in and
That was a
do my
fun
thing
that
on
was
it.
a fun show because it's like superheroes traveling through time.
Yeah. Yeah, and because it's like every episode takes on its own concept, it's definitely got a much stronger element of campiness to it, I think, which I
Definitely.
think is a lot of fun for fans to watch, especially once they're into it, and a lot of fun to make too. I definitely got that feeling from the cast and the crew there that like everyone just really loved making the show, and it was like, okay, what world are we in this week? Are we doing a western? Oh, we're doing a sitcom. That was the one I did. So they were like, we're making a sitcom this week. All the jokes are kind of through that lens now. Um,
I know. I thought that was really a cool way to do it because
yeah,
I mean, you've got the the underlying theme, you've got that superhero
yeah,
elements and stuff, but every week it was just something completely different.
yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that too. Of course, the CW has kind of eliminated all their superhero shows for the
They
most.
have, unfortunately, yeah. I'm sure they'll find their way back to some of them soon.
Oh
I
yeah,
hope at least, yeah.
yeah. A lot of that stuff kind of moved to. I was going to say HBO, but Max, I guess, is the
Hmm.
thing
Oh
now.
yeah.
You can at least
It's,
catch them. Um, they're all really good shows. The only because you've done a few CW shows, they've got that formula. There's a lot of like teen angst in there too.
that's right, yeah. That's a good way to describe it. Teen angst.
A lot of superhero elements, but it's like kids growing up within those elements. So there's a
Yeah,
lot of drama.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty.
even with like Riverdale, I'm like, oh man, they gave a lot of teen angst to Archie.
Yeah, yeah. That one, I guess I didn't think what an Archie show would look like, but they've done a pretty good job with that one. They
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
they
They
made
totally
it
went against
dramatic
form,
and,
and yeah,
because it could just come across as ridiculous, but it doesn't.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree
That's
with
pretty
that.
good. Were you a comic book fan growing up?
I was, yeah. I was more of a Marvel guy, although I loved Batman always,
Mhm.
and Spider-Man was probably my favorite and go-to.
Yeah, we got to get you in with Disney. Let's get you some
Yeah,
Star Wars, some Marvel.
that's the next
You've
step, man.
established you can handle sci-fi and you can handle, superhero stuff. So
Yeah, Michael, I'm gonna need you to call my agent after
I'm
this,
gonna make
and
some calls.
yeah, thank you, I appreciate that. No, but we're really lucky on that kind of note, we're really lucky in Canada that so many large productions come here, and it's
Yeah.
only getting bigger. And in my time in this business, I've watched it get bigger and bigger. The studios get bigger and bigger. The trust by these large networks to bring these massive properties and concepts to
Yeah.
Canada and shoot them. And as a Canadian actor, someone described it to me. I was doing a film a few months ago, right before the strike, and one of the actors said, in Canada, you can be a blue collar actor. And by that, he meant like we do a lot of service work here. Like a lot of times, the truth is, if a big American show comes, it brings a big American star or stars to it. So
Sure.
how do you fill out the rest of the cast? And that's where guys like me normally come in, and you can kind of quietly build a really cool career where you get to work on all these great jobs and kind of get
Yeah.
to live life as well. And yeah,
Well,
it's
and
a
it doesn't
really like,
hurt watching other actors act either.
no, it's great. It's
You
the
can
best
kind
job
of
in the world.
learn a few things, or
Yeah,
maybe learn some things not to do for
yeah,
that
exactly.
one. So Sean, I got us off track a little bit, but let me back us up.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about what got you into acting. Why'd you want to go into the entertainment business?
Yeah, it was I think a childhood kind of interest and
Yeah.
curiosity met with a couple of teachers that pushed me in the right direction, nudged me in the right place. A teacher that comes to mind is Miss Pisani, and she was my grade 4 teacher, but right when I was in grade 7, she came to me and she was like, "Hey, there's an art school. I think you should go there. It's kind of like, best way to describe the school is it's like Fame. You have to audition to get into the school. We do a big musical every year. It's very intense dance, music, acting training while you're there. And that school just kind of really got me, really let me kind of like surround myself within the business. I got offered a series called Road Scholars when I was in grade 10, which was just kind of neat show that was like before reality TV. It was basically they gave me a camera. The concept of the show was they take a student and they send them somewhere in the world to learn something new. So go learn Italian in Italy, go snowboard in the
I
Swiss
like that.
Alps. So I went rock climbing in Wyoming and like was living in canyons for 2 weeks. And they sent me with a camera and they said, go join this extreme camp and just film your experience. And then for a few days, a crew would come and follow us around as well. And I did that. And this producer, Jane Houghton, asked me, she saw one of my shows in high school and she was like, hey, do you want to do this show? And I was like, cool. I did the show. As the show was finishing, a few months after, as we were finishing up some of the last loose ends, she recommended me to an agent in Toronto, which kind of got me my foot in the door professionally. I eventually decided I was going to be an entrepreneur. I kind of had that same spirit of like, I want to make something and I want to be my own boss.
Right.
So I went to school for economics, but I still had an agent, and my agent convinced me. Wasn't hard convinced, but she was like, you should stay with me and I can continue to submit you. You can try to make some money. We'll see what happens. And I was really fortunate that I started working while I was in university. And at that point, I kind of was like, I think I can make this work. And it's a pretty crazy industry. I never really thought it was something I could do or something that was possible. There was no one growing up around me that was doing it. So for me, it was like uncharted territory.
Yeah.
But step by step, it kind of came together, and I've been really lucky to kind of string along a bunch of really cool projects and a fun little career.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you got to play an economist?
Have I got to play an economist? No, I don't think I have. God damn it, someone's got to write that, Michael.
They're missing out.
They're missing out. I know that. I can tell you about the pricing of beet sugar in Germany in 1836 like nobody's business.
Well, I mentioned all the sci-fi stuff you've done. You did Twilight Zone, did Orphan Black.
Yeah, those were great shows. Orphan Black was tons of fun. Twilight Zone was great. Twilight Zone, I was out in Vancouver working for a bit and living out there, and they were shooting Twilight Zone out there, so I got cast in that. And it was just one scene at the end of that episode opposite John Cho. And I thought, oh, it's a fun little role. I'm just got out here. It's, I'll take any job I can get at this point. Did the job, finished it. It went well. I didn't think much of it after that. About a month and a half later, they called me again and they were like, hey, we really liked it. We're changing the episode. We're rewriting it. John Cho ends up in the hospital at the end of the episode with my character. And there's a bit of a turn that happens, but they were like, we want him to be in the hospital now from the beginning of the episode. So he's kind of recalling the story as he goes along, and you're the one he's going to be talking to the entire time. So I got to go back in, and John and I spent a day together and just knocked out I think it was 9 scenes back to back to back.
That's awesome.
And that was really great. And I was really grateful that they kind of, saw something and thought, hey, this guy can handle more work, and let's give him a run with it.
Yeah, that has to feel pretty good because you're thinking it's just a little part. And then, if it expands, obviously you did something right, or they wouldn't expand it.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think there's a lot of elements, with if I think about it rationally and objectively, they probably had this idea before, / they probably watched the episode and said, what's missing? But yeah, if I went in there and did a terrible job, they would have recast me, or they would have used a different element. They trusted me enough to go, hey, we can use this guy. So that definitely felt good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty great. So before I was a podcaster, I ran call centers. So I ran a DirecTV call center for years, and they would show their own shows on 100 TV screens all the time. So at the time, their big show that they were making was Rogue, and you got to be on that one. And I thought you on that one because they never stopped playing it.
That's awesome. That was such a fun project. Richard Schiff is the coolest human in the world. I really, really liked working with. He's just a great actor. When you just meet someone, you're like, I'm in the presence of someone great right now who does this at a level above everybody else. That's how I felt about him. And we just kind of, it was, it's one great scene with him that has lived on my demo for ages. And yeah,
you should have no problem putting together a demo reel.
No, I don't. I have to be picky and choosy. Normally, it's the most recent stuff that makes the cut.
Yeah.
But it's funny you say that. I ran call centers I ran a call center for a while, actually.
No,
I don't know if I'd call it a call center. I was a telemarketer. When I was gigging and wasn't making enough money, I was 24. I worked in a telemarketing center for this really shitty company called Arts Marketing Service, and we called people and sold them theater tickets. And then Eventually, one thing
That's a
after
call center.
another. Yeah. And then we just like took, it was the best and the worst job. The job itself was terrible, but the people I worked with were absolutely hilarious. Like we just had the best time. I met one of my best friends there. We went on to write and direct a bunch of shows together. There's a ton of out of work
Oh, that's
actors
terrific.
working here. We were playing pranks on our boss. We were just doing all sorts of things. Like it was like no rules because, as you know, in a call center, it's like if you're making money, they don't care what you're doing.
That's pretty
And when
much
you're
true.
24, it's pretty awesome to have a job like that,
Yeah.
especially when you're making money.
I mean, that is
Um,
pretty much true. The downside is they also don't care to get rid of you for any reason.
Yeah, that's right. Because they don't pay
There's
you if you
no
don't make money.
loyalty.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I did that, and then one thing led to another, and then I got hired by a theater company that was like, we want to bring our operations in house, but we need. It wasn't like a telemarketing center as much as it was like we were a sales team, and we called all the subscribers for this very very large theater company in Canada, and we sold them subscriptions, and we helped build the shows, and I started helping building the marketing plan. So
Mhm.
I spent many years doing that as well. Um, so yeah, I know that game, and I'll bring up the movie, or not the movie, the show. I just finished it. Telemarketers. Have you watched that?
Yeah, I actually had the guy that created that on the
Oh my
show,
god.
and we had that same conversation. I was like, "I've done telemarketing."
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was he did such
Those
a good
first
job on it.
that first episode, those scenes, I was like, I called my buddies that worked there with me, and I was like, dude, you got to watch the show. Like, this is what we were doing. We were working at a company that essentially was doing this. Um, it's
Yeah,
wild.
well, and the sad part is that's not unusual. There was a ton of
No,
those companies.
tons
None
and
of them
tons.
were good,
Yeah,
but you
yeah,
meet the best people in a call
yeah,
center, I think. Just
yeah.
characters.
That's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Yeah, that's such a great show, and he was terrific. I had his name was Sam, and he had been accumulating footage for like 30 years,
Yes.
just hoping that he got to use it someday.
Yeah, I mean that's just to have the wherewithal in like 2005 to be like, I'm just gonna film everything and
Yeah.
see if this stuff's useful one day. I mean, can you imagine the stuff that didn't make the cut on he's been
Oh yeah.
accumulating content for 30 years or 20 years now.
Yeah, I'm sure he could have done because there was like 3 parts to it. I'm sure
Yeah,
he could have done a lot more than that
definitely.
with the
Yeah.
footage they have. But yeah, that's pretty great. That's funny that there's so many ex telemarketers working in
Yeah.
the entertainment business.
Yeah, I think so. And there was like workaholics. I think those guys all met at a call center as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, and actually, the first show I wrote with my writing partner was about a bunch of guys. They work in a call center for. We turned it into. They work in a call center for a really like terrible network TV, a network. So they work in the complaints department essentially. So this network is just putting out these like horribly racist and like discriminatory shows, and they're the ones that have to deal with all the bullshit. And their boss is just like a total monster, and it's them. They get kind of recruited to be on a paranormal show, and it kind of follows their escapades.
That's
Um,
hilarious. What's the
yeah,
name of the show?
it's called Paranormal Investigators.
Oh, Paranoid. Yeah, I know that show. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's actually a really good show.
Yeah. No, no, I think what you're thinking of is not what we did because we only made a pilot and
Oh, okay, okay,
it
okay.
ended
Yeah,
up
this is a
beginning
show
and
you
dying with the
made
pilot.
yourself. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. You're
yeah.
right. Yeah, that's pretty great. Yeah, you need to get that made. I've
You know?
always thought call centers are ripe for like comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're hilarious. And I know a few people have tried different things to try to, and they just didn't take. But it's there. If you get the right person writing it, I think you could do a lot with a
Oh
call
yeah.
center.
We used to do this thing where, we just at the end of the day, I was fortunately never doing anything that was like super slimy, as I would characterize. Like I wasn't selling like credit cards or
Right.
like in like telemarketers like police force or what is the FOP like donations. We were selling theater tickets at the first job I had. The company itself was skeezy, but the final product was what it was. But we had to make it fun. Like we couldn't just sit there and dial and read off a script. So we used to create a list and we pass it around the room and we just put whatever word, like baboons or like, Nubian princess, like whatever you want, you put on this list. And then we would hand it to each other and be like, can you make a sale using all of these words?
Oh, it's
And be like,
hilarious.
oh no, you don't want to sit in the right orchestra. That's where the baboons are. All right, let's get you all signed up here, Mr. Wallace. It's
I
just
love that. Yeah, because you have to do something to make it fun.
yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah, that
love
was exactly it. It was just like to take you out of like reading a script because the script was useless. The second you get rid of the script, you start making sales really quickly.
that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really true. when I started in call centers, it was back in the 90s, and I started with this credit card company, and their kind of spiel was they give you a $300 credit card. So it's they're selling it for people that have got bad credit. This will help them reestablish their credit. So they give them a $300 credit card, which is nothing. There's $300 credit limit, not a lot. But in order to get that $300 credit, they charge you $150 up front. So now your $300 credit limit is $150.
Yeah.
You had to pay $150 to get it. Well, if you want the card rushed to you, and of course you do, that was another $30. So you started with $180 balance on a $300 limit. And where the company actually made their money was they didn't disclose that it worked that way. So then people would go over their limit a ton and would just rack up the fees. So then the call center basically, our job was to handle those complaints. Well, there was no way to fix it. You couldn't, you had no power to actually fix it.
Yeah.
You're basically were just being paid to just sit on the phones and get yelled at all day, was basically.
That's brutal.
It was a terrible.
That sounds pretty horrible. Yeah.
And I always say that I started as an agent on the phones. I was newly out of college, and I worked up to supervisor. And then when I was a supervisor, another supervisor that I had, kind of got friendly with when we were agents, he left his computer unlocked. So I thought it would be hilarious if I sent out an email from his computer to the rest of the supervisor group, just saying, I can't remember what I said, but something like, I'm a terrible supervisor. I don't know why, they keep me on this job, and send it to their supervisors. Right. And I thought, that's hilarious. Well, he waited to get me back until I eventually left my computer up. So he did the same type of thing, but worse. Like he put a lot more salty language and stuff, and he really got me back. The problem was he didn't send it to the supervisor group. He sent it to one of the executives of the company by accident.
Oh my God.
Right. So I saw it. The email came through, and I saw who he had sent it to, and I was like, we're getting fired. We're done. And that's what I thought. I was like, we're getting fired. So I went and told my boss, the director of the call center, this, and she agreed. She's like, you guys are going to lose your job.
Yeah.
Well, so I waited. The next day, nothing. The next day, nothing. I'm like, what is going on? The next day, we find out that executive had quit 2 days before.
Whew.
They just hadn't kind of got rid of his email. So nobody ever saw the email.
Wow.
And if that had played out like I thought it would, where I'd lost a job, I never would have had a career in call centers.
Wow.
Which now looking back, I'm like, I kind of wish that it had got to the right person.
Only that guy had held on for 2 more days.
2 more days. I could have been free. I could have been podcasting 20 years ago. So you've got a theater engagement coming up. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm doing a show.
October?
Yeah, in October. We're going to England with it. So we're rehearsing here in Toronto. It's a show called the Mahabharata.
See, I was going to give it a try, but I can tell you that I would not have said it.
That's fair. That's fair.
Well, I was going to say Mahabharata. Is that close?
That's not far because Maha means great, and the Bharatas can be said as Bharatas. They're Bharatas though, so it's Mahabharata.
Oh, okay.
The family is the Bharatas.
Yeah. So my understanding is it's a script that's based on a script from like 4,000 years ago.
That's right. Yeah. So the Mahabharata, you can think of it as like Greek mythology, but Indian. This has been told for generations upon generations.
Yeah.
A lot of Hindu culture is fundamentally based on a lot of these stories because at its core, it's all these different characters. They're sons of gods. They're fighting for a kingdom.
That's very similar.
It's a morality tale at its core. Very, very close to that. A lot of that stuff you can see too. You go, oh, this was borrowed here, or this must have been used from this thing from there. So I mean, it is Indian Game of Thrones. It's about 5 brothers who are all born of gods, who lose their kingdom, and they get exiled into the forest for 12 years, or for 13 years, sorry. And then when they come back, their cousin, they have 100 wicked cousins that are on the other side. Their fathers are brothers that are both laying claim to the throne. And the 100 cousins are like, we're not giving you an inch, nothing. And they have to decide, do we fight or do we not fight?
Right.
And it becomes about like, it becomes, what is your dharma? Which is like, it's not just about what's justice. It's what is right in this moment. How do you take action? Even doing nothing is a form of action. And it's like, you have to think about, if you don't take action, think of all the people that'll be hurt as a result of that. Think of all the suffering that'll be caused as a result of that. Is this something, a pain that you must go through to make the world a better place? So it's a long show. It's so the story itself, if you were to recite it in its entirety, would take weeks and weeks and weeks. They've condensed, Ravi Jain and Miriam Fernandez are the writers. They've essentially truncated it into 2 shows plus a dinner, which is also kind of a show.
Yeah.
So the whole thing runs about 7 hours. It's a full day event. You come in at the beginning of the day, you watch the first show, which is like 3.5 hours with an intermission. That gets you all the way to the point where the brothers get exiled. Then some people will go to a dinner where the idea is kind of, we tell stories in so many different ways. And even our storytelling format changes as we move through. We go from a very clown and kind of like bare bones kind of type of storytelling to more of a play. The idea is we tell stories around a dinner table. So come and have a meal with us. The cast is relaxing at this point, but a storyteller and the associate director will tell you another story. At this point, they'll tell it to you in a different way. They'll talk about why these things are happening, and
Right.
How do you dissect these stories? What is the real lesson here? How do we look at these from different angles? And then after that, you come in for the last part, which is back in the theater. It's a multimedia piece. It's about 2 hours and change. There's dance. There's an opera in it at one point.
It sounds amazing.
It's really epic. Yeah, it's really epic. And eventually these brothers decide, like, we have to go and we have to do what's right. And it means we're gonna have to fight our own family, because our family's on the other side of that. But we have to do this because the world will only get worse if we don't. Like, this is what justice is. This is what our dharma is. So that's the show. So we did it. We did the world premiere at a festival called the Shaw Festival here in Canada, which is one of the larger repertory theater festivals here. And it was a great success. At least I think it was. I think people really took to it. This idea of event theater really
well, how long of a run is it?
When we did it in March, it was a month. Like 3.5 weeks we ran.
That's
so you don't do it every day,
when
obviously.
you're talking all day long for one.
Yeah. I mean, training for it or preparing for it as an actor, and it's a very physical show. There's a lot of martial arts and stuff like kalari and different types of Indian and South Asian dance and martial arts that are intertwined that we've all had to learn to kind of put the show up. Training, it's like being an athlete. Like, you have to know exactly when you're going to eat, what you're going to eat.
Yeah.
Sleep a certain amount, get the first show in, have like a schedule for like for me, it was like I walk home, I eat this much food, I drink an espresso, I take a 20-minute nap, I come back to the theater and I do the second part of the show, or I do the last part of the show. And then after that, it's like cold shower, full meal, get ready to do it all over again the next day.
Yeah, that's amazing. So for the dinner portion, is the food like authentic to when the show was made? The original?
It's like a really simple and traditional Punjabi meal. Yeah. So it's like a vegetarian, it's like a very simple and traditional Indian meal. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. I'd love to spend a day doing that.
You should come to London. So we're doing it at the Barbican Theatre in London, which is, from my understanding, kind of like the home of international theater in the world. It's just like a presentation center. The Royal Shakespeare Company works out of there. It's just like incredibly impressive building with multiple theaters and restaurants and a greenhouse. One of the largest greenhouses in London is in it. So we're in the Barbican Hall there, and we'll do that for a week. So we're only doing a 1-week run. And then that's the end of this portion of it. And it looks like there's going to be a life for it after that's going to kind of go around the world. I don't have any details to share on that. I personally don't know them. It's not because I'm being cagey. But yeah, it's gonna find its way to America, I think.
So which brother are you playing?
So I play the oldest brother, who is the one who's destined to take over the throne. My name is Yudhishthira. and I am born of the god I'm born of the god of justice and morality, of dharma. So my character can only tell truth. My character is a thinker. While one of his brothers is like the god of the wind. He's like this monster of a man. He's an ogre almost. His other brother is born of the god of Indra, who is like a bringer of storms. So he's like a fighter. He's the greatest archer in the world. So my brother is the one that's like kind of he's the emotional core of the brother, or the emotional center of the brothers, in that he's kind of the one that's destined. He's the one they all look to because he's the oldest, and he's the one who has to make the decision and kind of wrestle with the morality of whether they go to war. Like, a great example is their grandfather, who trained them and who they love dearly, is on the other side because the grandfather took a vow and said, I will always protect the king. And right now the king happens to be the head of these 100 cousins. So he has taken a vow. He has to protect that king. So he doesn't want to fight these guys, his grandkids, but he has to. And my character has to, decide, like, I don't want to go fight this guy, but I think we have to. Like, this is for the greater good. People will suffer, and we have to go do this. So, yeah.
It sounds like it'd make a good, like, trilogy. You do like a group of movies about that.
I think there's actually there's one in the mix right now. I think it'll be in Hindi. Like, I think there's a Netflix India is working on one right now.
That's the one area that Netflix has done pretty well, is they've brought different countries, to your viewing screens. You can watch stuff even if you don't speak the language, and just subtitle it. And a lot of people do that, and it doesn't bother them. But especially here in the States, we never got exposed to too much foreign content, but now we are, and it's good. It's really good.
And it's crazy to see how, like, stories have evolved, like how the desire for what types of stories have evolved, because you're seeing the tip of the iceberg, right? Like, how we got there was different for everyone, but at the end of the day, it was all about creating entertainment. It was all about speaking to your people. And now we see, like, oh man, like, you look like Korean cinema has like this like really specific style to it that you can really pick up on really quickly. I think it's awesome. So yeah, there's that adaptation coming up. Peter Brooks did one for the BBC, which was like 12 hours long back in the 80s. Wow. He did a stage production as well as a film.
That doesn't surprise me that the BBC.
Yeah.
That seems like a project that they would take on.
100%. Yeah. So this is, I mean, it's a very ambitious project. The stories within it have been told in so many different worlds. In Indian cinema, you'll find references right throughout. But to do the entire thing in its entirety, or a version of that at least, that is rarely done. So we know that we're all really strange, like, very honored to be able to kind of tell the story and be a part of it. And I think at the end of the day, it really works. So it's really exciting to be a part of something like that. Was
it fun getting back to theater, or is that something you do normally pretty often?
I don't do a lot of theater. I think I did theater back in, I try to get like on stage once every year, once every couple of years. So in pockets. I think most of my career is in film and television. I think just that's kind of, I produce as well. So like, it just, for me, that just seems like the natural choice. There's a lot more money, if I'm being honest with you. Like, you can build a better life in that place, in that world. But I really love theater. Like, there's nothing like being in front of a live audience.
Right. And I think most actors would agree with that. Not all, but most would agree that they prefer theater. It's just not as easy to make a living.
That's the thing. Theater. Yeah. I also value having like some sort of financial stability.
I mean, it's not.
And being able to do some nice things every now and then is also good. So, like, listen, I'm not like a millionaire or anything over here working in film and TV, but I'm able to carve out an okay living.
Yeah. So Help Me Todd, we saw you on there.
Oh yeah, that was a fun show. Marsha,
we were late to that party, but that's a good show.
It is. It's really funny. I didn't realize it was as hilarious as it was when I auditioned for it, because my character's obviously very serious in it. And then when I read the full script, I'm like, oh, this is hilarious.
It is. It's like, I went into it thinking it was a drama, but it's really funny.
Yeah. I hope that show has a life after the. I mean, I would imagine that show will come back for another season.
I think it will. That first season was pretty strong.
It was very strong. Yeah, I agree.
And hopefully we're past the strike stuff at some point. Although it doesn't seem like we're making a ton of progress so far.
I don't know. Every time I hear something different. I mean, I know I guess the writers are. My feeling is the writers will, and I don't know. I have no inside knowledge, so take it for what it's worth. But my feeling is the writers will get their deal solved first because you need the writers to get their stuff going before
That's
the
right.
actors can come in. And once that's set, then it'll put a lot of pressure on being like, we got to figure out SAG now.
Yeah. Well, and they'll start running out of content.
Yes,
And
yes, they will.
The longer we go without content, the audience will start putting pressure.
Exactly.
And then it'll probably get solved.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah,
know,
once people start dropping their
definitely
subscriptions because they're like, there's nothing new here anymore,
Yeah.
they're going to be
And
like,
then
oh
they're gonna
shit, we
start
better make some
complaining.
shows.
That I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. I mean, you got to figure out. I know in Canada you don't have quite the same system, but in the U.S. the residual system, you know, you got to figure that out for the streamers because
Yeah.
you know, to make it that's kind of the system we have.
Yeah.
So you can't just cut that off all of a sudden and expect everybody to be happy with it. They're not going to,
Exactly.
a lot of actors live off those residuals.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
we
you got
kind
to
of
figure
get
out
like,
the AI thing.
yeah, they do. I mean, that's, and I feel like artists are the ones that are going to be able to actually hold their ground on something like that. I hope.
You
Knock
can't
on wood.
use somebody's likeness and not pay them for it. That's crazy.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
You know, I mean, it's just a
it's
matter
so nuts.
of figuring out what's fair.
Exactly.
You know, how much is fair to use somebody's likeness. You can't just use them and not pay somebody. That doesn't even make sense. I don't even know how you argue that one.
Yeah. I think it's also indicative of like, you know, my agent said this to me, or something similar to this ilk to me. He said, you know, 20 years ago, studios were run by, for all their flaws, they were run by creatives to a certain extent. They were run by people that had a vision, that were like, I like this type of studio. I want to make these types of films.
Right.
There was something to that. Now studios are being run by an online retailer, a computer company, you know, like it's a different world. So their marketing departments are taking over every process. And, you know, I can tell you as an actor, like we feel the pinch. We used to go into a studio before. We used to meet the casting director. We'd meet a reader. Sometimes the director would be sitting there, or producers. We'd shake their hands. We'd read the scene. We would go out to our day. Now they've realized, hey, wait a minute. Why are we spending money to rent the studio, rent the casting director, rent the reader, move our day over there? Why don't we just get the actor to pay for everything? The casting director, we can pay them less because we don't have to pay them for studio space anymore. And, you know, it just kind of like the trickle down pinches the people at the bottom.
That's right.
And unless you're working, it's not worth it.
No, they have to really not at all.
In a way to kind of like, you know, something that becomes a little more equitable because they're making a lot of money.
There's money out there.
Yeah.
It should be able to come up with a system that's fair to everybody.
Yeah.
There's plenty of money out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I see that you were involved in like a Sherlock Holmes type of project at some point?
I was. Yeah, that was a pandemic show. We did it over Zoom. That was like, so there's there's a game called Blood on the Clock Tower, which is like a social bluffing game. If you've played Werewolf or Mafia, it's kind of in that same world.
You sit around,
yeah, you got like a storyteller. Everyone's kind of has an ability. Most people are good. A couple of people are bad. The bad people can kill one person at night, and also they can kind of like mess with everyone's abilities. Yeah. And your abilities can gather information or point out to evil players or good players. And we were, you know, I was at the Shaw Festival randomly because my fiance was there, and during the pandemic, and they had gotten pandemic insurance, which is like, it sounds like it's out of a Family Guy sketch or something. So they kept a lot of people on board, and when the pandemic insurance ran out, they got rid of all the self-contracted actors and they hired them back as full-time employees because they were like, we still have a community we want to service, even though people can't come to the theater. This is 2020. They're like, we still want to create content for them. And in that, I kind of got swept into it because the company was familiar with me. They knew I had made digital content before. It was like and I was living there already with my fiance because she had been there. So this was a show, Sherlock Holmes and the Deathly Clock Tower, where we played the game amongst ourselves as actors, and they always got out of hand. Like people were always yelling at each other. They were freaking out. And my buddy Kelly Wong, whose brainchild it was, came to me and said, I think this would just be great if we filmed it. So we filmed it so we were playing over Zoom already as a way to pass time. Yeah. So we set it up so we could film everybody individually in their homes. And we ran a series of games that we filmed. So we filmed every single camera angle. And then we also had like cutaways to like, you know, we would like a reality show, like a reality TV producer would be like, okay, just give me like a cutaways of like, so I can cut to something from like the grid. I can cut to you being like, they're lying. And then it cuts back to the game, you know, it's just like stuff like that, just to have fun with it. And all the actors just had tons of fun. They were all very aware that we were playing. They're all very competitive, so they wanted to win, but they were aware that we were creating a piece of content. And then we got animated. So, I was very inspired by Harmon Quest, how he kind of like when he plays Dungeons and Dragons, how he animates it. So we didn't have the money for the animation, but we had money for an illustrator who would kind of like make these like really beautiful large drawings that we could move the camera across as there was music playing. And then because we were at the theater, we had access to all these musicians, and we were able to build this like really cool show. So it was essentially a presentation of the game. And the creators of the game, who live in Australia, loved it so much that we ended up having a chat with them about potentially getting the license rights to actually make it into a TV show, which right now is kind of dead in the water. But it wasn't like we had a falling out. It just kind of became clear that they were just launching this game and they needed to focus their attention on that, not on a TV show.
Maybe something you can circle back to.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of love that idea. As I'm, I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons, and my son Brett, he still plays, and he tries all the different games, Cthulhu and Werewolf. He played that one. I'm guessing he's probably played Mafia. I'm not sure, but they tend to bounce around kind of the role playing games. But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. What a great idea.
Tell him to check out Blood on the Clock Tower. I will. I love those guys, and I love the game. I'll plug it at any opportunity. Yeah, it's a really, really great game.
Yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's chaotic, but it's a lot of fun.
Chaotic's good though when you roll.
It is.
Kind of keeps it interesting.
Yeah.
So I know we got to wrap up pretty soon, but tell me a little bit about POV Films.
Yeah, POV Films is a charity based out of Toronto that helps marginalized, low-income, racialized youth and young adults break into the film, television, and advertising industries. So it is backed by a production house called Radke Films, which is probably the biggest commercial producer in Canada. And their founders and CEOs decided to start this kind of charity. I sit on the board with them and a bunch of other people from different industries, from advertising.
How did you get involved with them?
I think, I'll try to tell the story as quick as possible. I moved to Vancouver years and years ago to kind of set up shop there and see what it would be like to kind of make some inroads with casting and producers out west. And leaving Toronto, where I'm born and raised, where I'd spent my entire career up until that point, it was like a real reminder for me about community and kind of the power of coming together as a group and being separated from my like community, which not that I took for granted, but you don't see it the same way, right? So when I came back, it was something that really stuck with me was like community is a two-way street. You get in what you get out what you put in. So I decided I got to find a place where I can put some of my business knowledge and some of my producing work to like good use, right? And kind of help on the back end with training people and helping people. And so POV was on my radar, as were a couple of other charities. It just so happened I had a couple of friends on the board. My lawyer was on the board. So they kind of introduced me. I got involved with them. So yeah, we have trained, we go as far as like, we'll go to like foster groups and we'll say like, hey, do you have any people in this in your group or organization that are interested in something like this? We can do like our entry level program is called the PA program, and the city fully pays for it. So they don't have to pay anything. They just show up. We introduce them to the industry. Not everyone loves it. Some people really take to it. Some people go, oh my God.
You could really change somebody's life doing something like that.
I think we have, yeah. I think like it gives an opportunity for people that have like, they just don't know anybody that would be in the industry. And when you don't know anyone, it's like this mythical thing, right?
It seems impossible.
Exactly. So this is just an opportunity for people to see that it's very realistic and it's very much possible if you kind of like get your ducks in line and focus your attention in the right direction. So then there's scholarships, there's mentorship. We have other training programs that people can continue to apply for. And then eventually they go out and they become, we have, I think, over 300 people that work in the Toronto film and television industry as crew members, cinematographers, directors that have had movies at TIFF now. Yeah, like it's really great. And
good for you for getting involved in that. I mean, that's a great kind of charitable endeavor. That's terrific.
It is. I love working with those guys. I love the individuals that come through that program. It's like they're so creative. It's so wild. Like they're so smart. They're so creative. They're so savvy. All they need is someone to be like,
They just need a
just do
chance.
it this way. Just do it this way. Just turn. This is how you turn the camera on. That's it, right? Like, it's just like, I mean, so much of it is our lives are on social media and filmed and stuff. Like, they already understand like a lot of the technical stuff intuitively. They just need to understand how to put it all together, what goes into some of the stuff, some of the making of film and TV. And once you give them that, they run with it and they make some really, really great projects. And the charity has started to expand exponentially, I would say, in the last 5 years. So we're looking to have some really exciting stuff in the next few years.
Yeah, that's so cool. So I know you've done some producing. Do you have a desire at some point to kind of step behind the camera?
I think so. I was producing as a just I was writing stuff because I was out of work as an actor, and I was like, oh, I got to write something. Paranormal Investigators that we talked about was just like, I got to do something with my time.
Yeah.
And once I wrote stuff, I had to figure out a way to produce it, and you usually just do it yourself.
Yeah.
I realized after I wrote a bunch of projects that got made and that I got money for, that the producing side was actually where I was really good. And that's where I kind of had a knack for. No, but there's a lot of agency involved in it, and I think I love the idea of like, you know, a creative has a dream that's this big.
That's right.
You have this much money. What's the compromise? How do you make this look like this? How do you talk to a creative? And I think I have, I mean, I'm an artist as my career and my profession, but I also have a business sense. And I think I'm kind of in a position to bring those two worlds together. And that's what I really love. I love helping creatives that have really ambitious ideas, bring them to life. So I'm leaning into that even more now. You know, on the producing side. I've executive produced a couple of projects that are coming out soon. And
yeah, good for you. Sounds like you're keeping busy.
I am a bit of a busybody.
I mean,
insane.
You know, it's going to get busier when you start doing the play that you have to be there the entire day.
Yeah. We started rehearsing. We're in week 4. I don't know. I'm losing count. We're in the middle of rehearsals right now. No. We're rehearsing in the studio. That's why we're doing this at night. I rehearse during the days all day. It's very, it's already like going back to a show that we've already made. There's there's a bit of ease to it. But it's still a lot. It's a lot to carry. It's super hot these days. That doesn't help. We're kind of in that world, and I'll be wrapped from that at the middle of October, and then go on to the next adventure.
That's awesome. Well, Shawn, thank you for taking a little bit of time.
Yeah,
I was a fan of yours. I'm excited to see the new stuff. I'd love to get out to London to. I'm going to put a bug in my wife's ear. So she works for Live Nation. And
amazing.
They got offices in London, and she's got employees.
Come on through, man.
Seems like time for a visit.
100% bug me if you're coming out for it.
Oh yeah, I will. Yeah, of course. Yeah. So a couple little things before we wrap up.
Yeah.
Anything else that you're working on that we can kind of keep an eye out for?
2 quick things, I guess, that are coming out. I got a series that I have a lead in. It's kind of like Love Actually, so it's a lot of different storylines strung together. It's Hallmark has made a series. They gave full creative control over to Gina Matthews, who made What Women Want, 13 Going on 30. She's the showrunner of the series. She is like my favorite person. She's just so funny. And they've written this really touching story about, it's about coming home for the holidays and the loss of that and the love of that. And it's all the families live in a cul-de-sac. So I'm in that. That's going to come out in the fall/winter. It's John C. McGinley's in that, Loretta Devine, Virginia Madsen, Dennis Haysbert. It's like
I think it's a rule in Canada that you have to be in at least one holiday.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's actually on the citizenship test.
No, that's pretty great. So we got that to look forward to. What was the other one?
The other one's called, I guess the working title, it's another Christmas movie. It's called How to Fall in Love by Christmas. I work opposite Terry Hatcher in it, which was just really fantastic. That I loved working with her. And that'll also, I imagine, will come out sometime at Christmas.
Yeah, that's terrific. Okay, so the last thing, Shawn, where can we find you on social media?
I don't have any social media.
Get out.
So you can, I've got a website, which is iamShawnAhmed.com. So it's just my name, iamShawnAhmed.com, and I try to post up what I'm doing next on there. That's the only way to really find me. If you need to get in touch with me, you can call my agent and they can.
So you were one of the rare people that has avoided the social media quagmire that the rest of us are in.
Yeah. Yeah, I did it for a while. I was never particularly great at it. I think it requires a certain type of attention that um, I have a lot of respect for the people that do it really well. I think
Yeah,
it
it's not,
takes a lot of
people
courage.
think it's easy, but it's
It's not
really
easy at
not to do
all.
it well.
And, you know, as I kind of took a harder look at what kind of career I was having and what kind of career I wanted, it's kind of goes back to what I said, like being a blue collar actor. I was like, I'm not on the path of superstardom. So I don't need to do the things that would be required of me to be a superstar. I just need to do the things that are required of me to be a great artist who will continue to be hired.
Well, there's some freedom in that.
And yeah, so yeah, I just deactivated it, and then I think I booked DC Legends, and it was a great role. You know, I got flown first class to Vancouver to go do the show, and it was really cool. And I just thought, like, this is the kind of project I always thought I would need social media to get, and I got it without it because I deactivated, and I was like, and then I just never activated it again. It's just
so
been
you're
dormant.
superstitious, is what you're saying.
Yeah, is that true?
Well, Shawn, you got an open invitation. Whenever the next one comes back, or maybe after the play, come back on and tell
Thanks,
us how
Michael.
it went.
Yeah, I appreciate that. This was great.
Oh, this was so much fun. Yeah, hold on one second.
Yep.
All right, so that's actor Shawn Ahmed. Hope you enjoyed that one. He's such a good actor. You've heard me on this show talk a lot about The Expanse. I think book wise, they were amazing, just terrific books. The show does them justice. It's really, really good. He played Lieutenant Boyer on there. So if you haven't seen it and you're looking for a good show, especially with the strike going on, The Expanse is excellent. His work as ensign on Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, really good as well. He played Alphonse on Coroner. He was in Siren. I didn't mention that. We've had several of the actors from Siren on the show. He played Dawson. You know, he did the Twilight Zone, Private Eyes, Designated Survivor, Orphan Black, Slasher. We talked about Rogue a little bit. He's just a talented guy. Oh, he's in Saw 6. I knew I was forgetting one. Yeah, he was in Saw 6 as Alan. So he's been at this for a while. It's been a while since that one came out. Just a really good actor. He calls himself blue collar actor. You know, talent wise, I think he is well above that, but he definitely has that work ethic, and you see him show up on good shows in good roles. There's a reason he's a really good actor. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you're in London, check out the play. You know, spend the day at the theater. That sounds pretty great to me. That's not bad. Not bad at all. If you're finding us for the first time, thank you. Really appreciate that. Love to have your support. It's easy to do. It's free. You know, I normally end these interviews with a little pitch to try to get your subscription. It's free. If you prefer to watch, it's YouTube, MeisterCon Pod. Just hit that subscribe button. Really help us out. If you're listening, just wherever you're listening at, subscribe to us there. We've got 654 episodes up, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there. If we're doing something in studio, if we're traveling to London to go to a play, if we're covering a convention, anything we got going on, it'll be on the website, meistercon.com. So check us out there. Please go to imdb.com and look up the Too Opinionated podcast. It's free, but if we could just get your eyes on the page, it really does help us out. They recently named us one of their top 100 podcasts. So hopefully you will enjoy the rest of our episodes as much as you did this one. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Too Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. Not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. Those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to IMDb, imdb.com, look up the Too Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.